Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmaswarupine avataravarishthaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha Sudhismriti purananam alayam karunalayam namami bhagavat padam shankaram lokashankaram. So we are continuing this discussion on this Purusha Suktam, which is a very interesting mystical description of creation and also of the nature of the absolute reality. The absolute reality that is all-pervading, immanent and transcendental. And I think in the last session we discussed how people of different temperaments also came out of this Supreme Person. The Supreme Person, Purusha, is the symbol of the absolute reality as the origin of creation. So again, creation, when we talk about creation, we are not talking about the way frequently creation is described in many of the ancient religious texts, where God created this world from this and that. Not like that. Creation itself is the result of a deep meditation. So you often find this word sankalpidavantaha, means sankalpa means a kind of meditation. Creation is the result of meditation, frequently called a yajna, and which we are going to discuss again. So this concept of yajna is very profound, and we should keep that in mind when we are discussing Purusha Suktam. Creation is a yajna. So what is yajna? Yajna, as I repeated many times, is yajno vai seshtatamam karma. This is the definition found in the Shadabadha Brahmanam. So yajna is nothing but a noble act. A noble act becomes a noble act when it is done without a purpose, in the sense without a selfish purpose. It is done as an act of self-sacrifice, as an act of meditation, as an act of renunciation. So just to give a few more details about the word yajna. It comes from a Sanskrit root called yaj. There's a root. The root has three meanings. In Sanskrit, it's called Devata Puja, Sankatikaranam, and Tyaga. Well, in plain English, what it means is worship of the divine, and then union of three acts. That is, union of action, knowledge, and spiritual discipline. In other words, karma, whatever we do, we're done without a selfish purpose, as an act of sanctity and sacredness, and also the knowledge of the absolute reality and spiritual discipline. These are three important meanings which are attached to the word yajna, especially its root yaj. In Sanskrit, it is called Deva Puja, Devata Puja, Sankatikaranam, Tyaga. So this particular implication should be clearly understood when we talk about creation as a yajna. So if you look at the dictionary, you find the word yajna is often used for a Vedic ritual called yaga. Of course, that's a normal meaning. I described this earlier. There are 14 types of such Vedic rituals called Sapta Havir Yajna, Sapta Soma Yajna. Many of these rituals are associated with various stages in human life. Just to give an example, yajna as a Vedic ritual, as a performance, as let's say as a worship act, something like that. There are 14 such different types of yajnas. It's technically called Ajnadhanam, which, for example, you start a fire, and a fire is ignited, and you offer certain things in the Tretagnī, in the morning, in Madhyandina, and also in the evening. Then Agnihotra, which is again a kind of Vedic ritual that you practice in association with the burning fire. It is called Agnihotra in the morning and evening. Then Deshapurnamasa, which is again done during certain certain intervals of the month. And then there are certain rituals performed associated with harvest festival. See, for example, when you harvest new grains, it is called Agrayana, Chadurmasya. Again, certain rituals performed once in 4 months. Again, Nirudha Pashu, which is actually done as a ritual performed certain Uttarayana, Dakshinayana, means the solar and the lunar movements of the sun. And then Sautramani, which is a kind of Vedic ritual performed during spring season. So you find many of these ancient Vedic rituals are performed during certain periods of the time, certain seasons, in association with certain, let's say, activities of people in general, like harvest season and so on, and also as a kind of daily ritual or worship done during certain times in the morning and the evening and so on. So these are some kind of yajna called Saptahaviri Yajna, where something is offered in the burning fire. Then some another set of yajnas called Sapta Soma Yajna. It's called Agnishtoma, Uktyam, Chodashi, Vachapeya, Adiratram, Aptoryama. I'm giving this example, just what yajna means in the conventional sense. In the normal sense, conventional sense called Rudhyartha. See, a word acquires a meaning because of its constant use and because of its association with certain events, certain rituals, certain activities, so that word acquires a meaning. Now, yajna has got a higher meaning which is totally different and far beyond, far higher than any of these implications. In that sense, yajna means any noble act without a selfish purpose, anything done with a sense of sanctity and sacredness and unselfishness and renunciation and so on. In that is the real meaning of yajna. That is etymological meaning, the original meaning. And again, that word acquires different meanings in course of time due to its various implications, because of its various usages in different social context. So in that sense, yajna means these three, it has got these three meanings. One is Deva Puja or Devada Puja, Sangadikaranam, and Tyaga, renunciation. These are three meanings. One meaning, as I mentioned, doing offering, an act of renunciation, an act of service, an act of sanctity, to praise some natural forces. So you have to remember, Vedic culture belongs to an era and an age long before established religions came into existence. So when we talk about the religious culture of Vedic heritage, or the ideas of worshipping God and religious dogmas of Vedic time, you should remember Vedic culture prospered and reached the highest level of perfection at least 4,000 years before the first established organized religion came into existence. The first established organized religion, when we think about it, is only Buddhism. That is 6th century BC. And close to the same age, Jaina religion. Vardhamana Mahavira was the founder of Jaina religion, and Buddha was the founder of Buddhism. That is 6th century BC, 600 years, 580 years before Christ. And then Christianity, of course, before that there was Judaism was there. But Judaism also, I do not know to what extent you can say Judaism was founded by one religion. Of course, you can think of Moses, but again, it went through different stages of evolution, many prophets, came one after another, each prophet representing one particular paradigm in the interpretation of the fundamental text. So perhaps in that sense, maybe Judaism is even older than Buddhism as an organized religion, if you include it like an organized religion like Islam or Christianity. Judaism is even older than Jainism and Buddhism. But Vedic tradition is much older than even Judaism. So you find here religious and spiritual culture emerges as an act of sanctity, sacredness, and renunciation. And the first concept of religion in action, religious practice, yajna. This is an important thing to remember. So, let us say the first meaning, Devata Puja is one meaning. So, Devadodeshena Dravyasya Tyagaha Yajnaha. This is one interpretation in some other hermeneutical textbooks on Vedic hermeneutics. Now, Deva, what is Devata? What is Deva, Devata? The word used in Sanskrit is Devata, which comes from Dyu Dhatu, which means the self-effulgent one. That's the meaning. The oldest attempt to define Deva, Devata is found in the old Nikhandu, which predates Yaska's Nirukta. But Yaska himself, the great writer who took many suktas from Rigveda and gave meanings to different words. So he himself says, Devo, Deepanadva, Danadva, Dyotanadva, Dusthanova, Bhavatiti. This is the meaning. 4 meanings he gives to the word Deva. Remember, when you use the word Deva or Devada, you should not mistake that word to be to be some kind of an anthropomorphic monotheistic God. Frequently, that's the mistake we commit. It more or less closely resembles the concept of angels in Christian religion. They are celestial beings. You cannot call them G capital OD, God. That always implies a monotheistic creator God. But frequently in English translations, whether Keith or Winter Nietzsche or MacDonald, many of the great writers who have written books, they're very authentic Indologists of 19th century. They have written many books and translations, even Max Muller also. He writes long introduction to his own edition of the Rigveda Samhita. You find the word G small letter, Gods, gods or goddesses is used. It roughly corresponds to what angels could imply in the Abrahamic tradition. I mean, mostly in the Christian tradition. So these devas or gods and goddesses represent some celestial beings who listen to our prayers. So, and when they listen to our prayers, they grant us what we pray for, Dhanatva or Dyotanatva. And then, of course, they are self-effulgent. Dusthanadva, I mean they reside in higher regions. These are some of the meanings, and of course they are synonymous with the light, Deepanadva. They lit the candle of knowledge in our hearts. So Deepanadva. These are the meanings found in the most authentic and we have the oldest document, which is almost like a dictionary called Yaska's Niruktam, roughly between 6th and 9th century BC. We don't know the exact period of its composition. This is one meaning. The second meaning is, again as I mentioned, is a combination, union of upasana, karma, and jnanam. Upasana means spiritual discipline. You do worship, you do confession, you pray, you meditate, or you read some holy books with a great sense of sanctity and reverence. That is called upasana. Again, karma, doing work as an act of worship. That is also part of the yajna concept. And the next one is jnanam, knowledge. Or frequently, these three activities are linked to the three Vedas. For example, Rigveda. Rigveda is linked to Upasana because Rigveda mantras are used for performing many of these spiritual disciplines. And again, Yajurveda. Yajurveda describes the performance, the actual performance of different rituals. So it is symbolic of karma or action. Samaveda is considered to be the symbol of jnanam. So union or harmony of karma, action, jnanam, knowledge, and spiritual discipline, like worship. All these combined or harmonized becomes yajna. This is the second meaning of yajna. The third meaning of yajna is, of course, it is a purification. So why this is important? We are going to discuss at the next stage, we are going to discuss an important mantra that actually comes much later. But that mantra should be understood to get an idea of the overall structure and the purpose and the spiritual significance of Purusha Suktam. That's why I am again giving a description of the concept of yajna. The third meaning is tyagam or renunciation. So here tyagam means, for example, purification of Atman by renunciation, purification of different things that you offer in the burning fire. That is also part of yajna concept, and also purification of our heart by reciting sacred mantras, and also by meditating on the meaning of the sacred mantras as a spiritual discipline helps us to purify our mind, our word, and our thought. So these are some of the implications of the word yajna. So the Purusha Suktam itself is a very interesting description of creation as a yajna, and also it is also description of Atman or Brahman, the absolute reality, as cosmic person. That is, Purusha is described as Atman, or Atman or Brahman is described as a cosmic person, Purusha. So these are some of the points we have to keep in mind when we talk about the next mantra. So one important mantra, maybe the most important mantra in the Purusha Suktam is it is found in the as the 16th mantra of Taittiriya Aranyaka, and it doesn't appear in the Rigveda. So that's something very interesting. The most significant mantra, the most important, spiritually the most important and the most profound Vedic mantra, if it is part of the well-known versions of Purusha Suktam, is found only in the Taittiriya Aranyaka and elsewhere, but it doesn't form part of the Rigvedic version of Purusha Suktam. It is Vedahamedam Purusham Mahandam Aditya Varnam Tamasastu Pare Sarvani Rupani Vijitya Dhiraha Namani Krutva Abhivadan Yadaste. This is one. In fact, the same mantra comes a little later in a different, with a slight difference. Vedahamedam Purusham Mahandam Aditya Varnam Tamasaparastat Tameva Viditva Adimurti Medi Nanyapantha Vidyati Ayanaya. So that comes as part of a meditative process, which actually tells you the ultimate result of reciting Purusha Suktam and meditating on the meaning of Purusha Suktam. So we will discuss these mantras now. So first one is, of course, Vedahamedam Purusham Mahandam Aditya Varnam Tamasastu Pare. It is the 16th mantra of the Taittiriya Aranyaka version of Purusha Suktam. What it says is this: It actually describes in the form of a verse the fundamental Advaitic principle, Sarvam Brahmamayam Jagat. This is a central idea that comes from Upanishads, really speaking. But that idea is projected in the form of a metaphor, of an allegory, and also as a wonderful description. So you can find Vedaham Edam. The simple point is Aham Edam Mahantam Purusham Veda. This one. I have realized this great cosmic Purusha. And a Purusha is described as Aditya Varnam. It is self-effulgent. It is of the light it is the nature of the light of the sun. It is like the self-effulgent sun. Now, and again it continues saying that and then that Purusha, that realization has taken me beyond the darkness of ignorance. So this is one meaning. Again it says that Purusha creates the entire cosmos by its will. So you find Aditya Varnam Tamasastupari Sarvani Rupani Vijitya Dhiraha. So that Purusha is Dhiraha. Dhiyam Chichaktim Ratri Dadadi Jagat Kalpanayi Bihi Prakadayedi. This is one interpretation of mostly Voli Bhattabhaskara's commentary on the Taittiriya Aryanaka. What it means is, for creating this world, this Purusha manifests within himself the ultimate spiritual knowledge. So, the Purusha creates this entire universe through his spiritual nature, through his spiritual knowledge. This is real meaning. So, in that sense, the Purusha is given this adjective, Dhiraha. And this Purusha, though it is unborn, still it gives birth to the whole creation. In the Sarvani Rupani Vijitya Dhiraha, the entire phenomenal world, which has got various names and various forms and various dimensions, are coming out of this Purusha, which by itself is eternal, unchanging, self-effulgent. And once we realize that this Purusha is our true nature, once a jiva or the individual soul realizes that this Mahantam Aditya Varnam Purusham, this great self-effulgent Purusha, that's my true nature. I am not just this physical, psychophysical mechanism that takes birth, that lives, enjoys and suffers, dies, and again going through these cycles of life and death. I am not that psychophysical mechanism. I am that eternal, omnipresent, immanent reality. Once we realize this, what happens? We go beyond the darkness of ignorance. This is the meaning of this mantra in the earlier version of the 16th mantra. But its most important version is found in the next Anuvaga, which is actually an act of meditation. It's called Anusandhana mantras, means. After performing, after reciting the Purusha Sukta, after meditating, the meditator who meditates on entire cosmos itself as a result of a deep act of meditation on the part of the cosmic reality. Finally, he realizes his own identity with that cosmic reality. And at that time, he realizes he attains his own deathless dimension. He goes beyond death. He realizes, he identifies his own eternal, deathless dimension. That's the real meaning in the next mantra. Actually, Swami Vivekananda quotes this mantra. Of course, he quotes the other one also in some of his lectures in the United States. I think on one or two occasions, even in the Chicago address, Swamiji refers to this mantra. Vedahamedam Purusham Mahandam Aditya Varnam Tamasas Parastar. And this Purusha is beyond the darkness of ignorance. Tameva viditva adimurti medi. After realizing, after attaining total identity with that Purusha, that spiritual seeker, he defeats death. He goes beyond death. He identifies, he attains his own deathless dimension. And again, nanyapantha vidyate ayanaya. Ayanaya nanyapantha vidyate. For this, there is no other way. Actually, we can attain our own deathless dimension only by realizing the fact that we, in our true nature, is that deathless, the changeless, the unchanging, eternal reality, Atman. So, I discussed this earlier in the light of that well-known dialogue between Yajnavalkya and Maitreyi in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the second chapter, where Yajnavalkya teaches Maitreyi how to go beyond death, maybe in some other class, There is an interesting dialogue in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Yajnavalkya wants to take to a life of mendicancy, and he wants to hand over his her share of the property to his wife Maitreyi. Maitreyi asks, but can I become immortal? Can I attain immortality by all this wealth? Even if the whole world is filled with wealth, Yajnavalkya says, no, it's not possible. Money can only buy things that you can make use of in this world at the empirical level. You can attain deathlessness only when you realize that you are actually deathless, not as a physical body, but as Atman, you are deathless, unchanging, eternal reality. This is the text that you find in Brihadaranyaka. Now, there are some interesting observations made by commentators on this mantra. This is because of its very importance. I am trying to explain this. One commentator is Bhatta Bhaskara. Bhatta Bhaskara belongs to an era. He was perhaps after Skanda Swami and before Sayana and Mahidhara. He was a well-known commentator, mostly well-known for his commentary on the Taittiriya Aranyaka and so on. But here in the Taittiriya Aranyaka version of Purusha Suktam, Bhatta Bhaskara writes, Tamasaparastad, Tamashilam Vikarajadam Tama Tataparastad, Sthidam Mahandam Purusham Aham Veda, Evam Tam Vidwan Amrudo Bhavadi, Anyapantha Ayanaya Amrudattu Prapti, Sadhana Bhudu Navidyate. These are the statements coming from Bhatta Bhaskara. What it says is, going beyond the darkness of ignorance. How do we go beyond the darkness of ignorance? Darkness of ignorance is linked to change, because death is nothing but change. So, Vikarajadam, that's why he says, Tamashilam Vikarajadam Tamat Tadaparastat. So, darkness or ignorance is synonym of change. Death itself is change. Death implies change of one body into another body. So, in this world, everything undergoes this constant change called vikara, means change. Once we realize that we are the unchanging, the eternal Atman, that's our true nature. At that time, what happens? we go beyond death, we go beyond change, we go beyond darkness. And then tam vidwan amruto bhavati. And evam tam vidwan amruto bhavati. In this way, a knower of his own deathless dimension, he himself becomes deathless. Amruta means something or somebody which has no death. That's the meaning. Amruta means deathlessness. Murda Purusha means a person who is dead. Amruta means the one who never dies, deathless, eternal or immortal. So we ourselves can attain our immortality, not at the physical level, but when we transcend our own physical dimension, when we realize that at the physical dimension we go on changing all the time. That's vikara jatam, everything is subject to changes. But the moment we realize that we are Atman, through this meditation, then what happens? Evam tam vidwan amruto bhavati anya pantha ayanaya amrutatva prapta. Amrutatva praptaye anya pantha na vidyate. That means, for attaining this immortality, there is no other way. So it's an important mantra, is a commentary by Bhattabhaskara. Of course, why this mantra is so important? The Vedahamedam Purusham Mahantam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parasta Tameva Viditva Adimurtimedi Nanyapantha Vidyayanaya. You find, in fact, this is the clarion call that you find in Vivekananda's complete works. He repeats this idea again and again. And similar ideas, but this is a very important idea that Swamiji refers to. Now, while introducing this particular mantra, this particular statement, the greatest of the commentators is Sayanacharya, who lived in the 14th century. Remember, the earliest of the commentators of Vedic literature, you can call Nikhandu, somewhere before 9th century BC, and its later form called Niruktam, 6th century or 7th century BC. And then in 6th century or 7th century AD, Skandaswami wrote commentaries. And after Skandaswami, the most important commentator is Sayanacharya, who wrote commentaries for all the 4 Vedas. So he makes a very profound statement which reveals the actual significance, spiritual significance of this particular mantra. He says, Yadhokta Virat Purusha Dhyanam Atra Pradipadyate. So Yadhokta Virat Purusha Dhyanam Atra Pradipadyate Tatra Mantra Drashta Narayana Rishi Sukiyam Dhyananubhavam Prakadayadi. It's a very famous statement. Sayanacharya is the one who actually points out the importance of this mantra. He says, Mantra Drashta. Mantra Drashta. The Rishi of this particular Purusha Sukta, the mantra is Narayana Rishi. So, he Sokiyam Dhyananubhavam Prakadayadi. He reveals his own experience, the experience that he attained as a result of long meditation on the meaning of the Purusha Suktam. And what did he do? Yadhokta Virat Purusha Dhyanam. If you can think of the entire cosmos, wherever you look, as the manifestations of Purusha, of Virat Purusha, as the physical manifestations of this cosmic reality, then wherever you look, you will be connecting yourself only with that absolute reality. You can find in the previous mantra, Tasmat Ashwa Jayanda Ekechu Ubhayadataka Gavoha Jatnire Tasmat Jata Ajavayaka. You find here, from that Yajna Purusha, from that Purusha, cosmic person, different animals came into existence. So Ashwa Jayanda, I mean horses came into existence, and again different animals with teeth on both sides, and goats, and number of animals names are given. You can find Purusham Yadhuka Didava Kalpayan that we already discussed here. Um, you can find Gramya, Pasavastaye, you find different animals born, Ananya and Pashun, different animals which live in the forest, and different animals which live in the villages, Gramya, then Pashavast, then different types of cows. All these names are given. It's a symbolic presentation. From the Yajna Purusha, all these came into existence. Remember, not physical creation, but Sankalpa. So you have to remember, it is the result of Sankalpa. Sankalpa is cosmic will. So how do you explain creation through Sankalpa? It means to explain that the creation and creator are non-distinct and non-different. So creation itself is a manifestation of the creator. And in this manner, all these animals, birds, and the four Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda, all these came into existence. Which means wherever you look, this cosmic Purusha alone, look at the mountains and valleys, it is also part of this Virat Purusha. That's why Sayanacharya says, Yadhokta Virat Purusha Dhyanam. Virat Purusha Dhyanam means meditating on the entire universe as one spiritual entity, as the manifestation of one single spiritual truth, as one single spiritual principle. And this meditation, this is what is called Virat Purusha Dhyanam by Sayanacharya, the great commentator. And he says, Tatra Mantradrashta, and in this particular mantra, that is Vedahimedam Purusham Mahantam, in this particular mantra, Mantradrashta, the Narayana Rishi, Sukiyam Dhyananubhavam Prakatayati. He reveals, he tries to explain his own mystical spiritual experience in this poetic language. He says, Vedahamedam Purusham Mahantam. I realized, Veda means came to know, but here knowledge is not empirical knowledge, it is inner spiritual realization. I realized in my heart the cosmic unity and oneness of existence as the one Purusha, which manifests as animals, Vedas, mountains, valleys, plants and trees and everything is one Purusha only. That experience of unity and oneness is called the Advaitic experience of unity and oneness. This is the result of chanting this mantra and meditating on the meaning of this mantra. After all, the purpose of mantra itself is we should understand it, understand the meaning, then we should meditate on the meaning of the mantra. Then only mantra actually becomes potent. So there's a difference between, a Chinese-made plastic snake and the real snake that lives in the forests. Both are snakes apparently, but one snake can bite, it has got poison. So it becomes really effective in the negative, in the way of comparison. Mantra becomes really effective in our spiritual life only when we understand the meaning and we meditate on the meaning, and in this meditative process slowly we realize our own unity and oneness with the essence of that mantra. But of course it requires a lot of preparation. One should practice some discipline in eating, in conduct, in behavior, moral and spiritual disciplines are important. Then only our mind actually becomes fit, a fit instrument for meditation. This is an important thing. Meditation can sometimes be even counterproductive. It can lead to hallucinations and delusions. Frequently it happens when we don't prepare our mind for meditation, we try to meditate. So that creates lots of problems. But slowly, when we practice, when we chant this and try to understand the meaning, and then slowly our mind becomes contemplation and thought at the beginning, slowly it becomes meditation. At that time, we realize this. Of course, it's a slow process. We cannot, you have to remember the article that I referred to some time ago, an article that appeared in Global Vedanta, that is an American writer referring to a modern trend that we should have everything right now, today and now. So here referring to some new trends, we should have everything, Kundalini, realization, everything right now and today. He said, not so fast, or enlightened one. That's the title of the article written by a great American writer, published in Global Vedanta. You can perhaps read it again. So this is the real meaning, the spiritual significance of this Purusha Suktam. Now we'll come back to the Sukta as such. 14th mantra is Chandrama Manaso Jataha Chaksho Suryo Ajayada Mukhadindrascha Agnischa Pranad Vayu Rajayada Nabhyas Idandariksham Sishnu Dev Samavartada Parbhyam Bhumi Disasrota Tatha Lokan Akalpayan. So it continues that. These two, 14th and 15th mantras in the Taittiriya Aranyaka version, which perhaps we can think of, we can just refer to Sayana's commentary itself, This is, Manasaka Chandrama Jataha Manasas Sakashat Utpannaha Chakshoho Suryaha Jayada Aditya Utpannaha Mukhat Indrascha Agnischa Utpanno Pranat Vayu Ajayada, etc. But it says, the moon came into existence from the mind of cosmic Purusha. And the sun came into existence from the eyes of the cosmic Purusha. And then from face, Indra and Agni came into existence. And from vital air came into, breath came into existence. So it continues. Practically, whatever you find in this world, the breath, our talk, the sun, the moon, the celestial regions, called Antariksham, Nabhyasi, the Antariksham, from navel, Antariksham, the space between earth and heaven, Sishnu, Dev Samavartada, and from head, these celestial regions came into existence. From feet, earth came into existence, Disasrotrad, and from ears, these special directions came into existence, Tatha Lokan Akalpayan. So you find whatever you can think of in our life or in the life of the cosmos is explained as originated from one single spiritual principle. This is the process. This is the process of meditation. This is how we should meditate. It's an important thing to remember. Again, it's a mystical poem and also a method of meditation. That's what you find here. And then, of course, come the Veda, Hamedam, Purusham, Mahantam, etc. that we discussed already. Aditya Varnam, Tamasaparas, Tamasastu Pari. This little difference you find with this mantra and what comes in the next Anuvaka. And then again, of course, Yata Chandradiyo Jataha Tatha Nabhyaha Antariksham Asid Sishnaha Dev Samavartada, etc. Parbhyam Bhumit. We already described here, the earth came out of the feet of the cosmic Purusha, and then the celestial regions came out of the head of the cosmic Purusha, etc. I mean, whatever we can think of or conceive of in this world, when we look around, what we see, the mountains and valleys, human beings, animals, Gramya, Pashavastaya, you find Chandrama, Manasojada, Chaksho, Surya, Jayada, sun and moon, all these came out of the same cosmic Purusha. So, because meditation is nothing but a journey from outer to the inner, from external to internal. What we see with our eyes opened, what we hear with our ears opened, we see the sun and moon, valleys and mountains. Aranya, Gramya say different animals living in Aranya means forest, and different animals living in villages. All that you find. Ajyam, all that we offer in the some sacrifice, everything you think of. These are the different things that we conceive of. All that we can conceive of, everything, including Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda, all these originated from one cosmic Purusha. So, the fundamental spiritual unity and oneness of existence or creation or humanity are implied here in this Purusha. This is a method of meditation. The 15th mantra of Rigvedic version of Purusha Suktam, it comes as the 7th mantra of Taittiriya Aranyaka that we already discussed earlier. Saptasyasan paridheha trisapta samidhakritaha deva yajnantanvanaha abadhanam purushan pasham. We already discussed. Paridhi, that means the outer boundaries of the Vedic altar on which we perform yajna, called Vedika. That's called the paridhi. That is seven. The seven meters, or 7 Vedic meters that we already discussed. We mentioned this earlier. The 7 meters called, for example, Gayatri, Ushnik, Anushtup, Brihadi, Pankti, Trishtup, Jagadi, etc. Anushtup and Trishtup you find in the Purusha Suktam itself. So you find. So, and again, the 24 other, fact, Trisapta Samidhakritaha means, already we discussed earlier. The 17th mantra of the Taittiriya Aranyaka version is Dhada Purastad Udajahara Chakrapravidwan Pradishasya Tamevam Vidwan Amurda Ikha Bhavadi Nanya Pantha Ayanaya Vidyade. The same idea comes here. Prajapati created the entire cosmos as tools for meditation for spiritual seekers. If we are truly spiritually oriented, everything in this world is an instrument for meditation. If we can think of a grass, think of where it came from. It's also an evolute or a creation of the same cosmic Purusha. So we can if we trace the origin of everything in this world, we can eventually we can connect with the cosmic Purusha from whom the whole universe came into existence. The 18th mantra is very important. Yajnena yajnam ayajanta devaha tani dharmani pradhamanyasan tekhanagam mahimana sajande etar purve sadhyaha santi devaha. It's already mentioned here. Now, this mantra says a simple thing. That is, gods and goddesses, they manifested the Brahman, the Atman, as the Yajna Purusha, as the cosmic person, through their meditation. It's called Manasa Yajna. So again you have to remember, we talked about sacrifice, we talked about different Vedic rituals, but in this particular context of Purusha Suktam, it is a Manasa Yajna. It is a mental process. It's a spiritual discipline. Because we are not talking about the times when people were practicing yajnas and yagas. We are talking about the creation of the entire cosmos long before human beings came into existence. So that journey from the unchanging Brahman to this physical manifest universe, that is described as an act of yajna. This is an important thing to remember. So, as a result of these different spiritual disciplines came into existence, and also different devas, different sages, they all started meditating on the supreme truth. This is one part of the one anuvaka that comes in the Taittiriya Aranyaka, and I think we have time. Yeah, we don't have time. We will conclude this whole Purusha Suktam discourse in the next session. First I shall give a review maybe, and then I shall conclude in the next session, because after this the Anusandhana part comes, I mean the meditative process. After that we will conclude the next session. Now you are most welcome to ask questions. I should remind you, because there is always some gap, because we are discussing a mystical poetry. So when you read or enjoy mystical poetry, we should not focus our attention on the physical things of what we are reading about. We should try to connect that with the higher implied meaning and implications. So thank you, most welcome. Yeah.
Hello, Swami.
Yeah.
Two questions about Advaita. Can it be said that this scripture is Advaitin, and is Sayanacharya himself an Advaitin?
Yeah. Yeah, Sayanacharya was, of course, he was an Advaitin, because he comes in the lineage of Shankaracharya's tradition, you know. He comes in the lineage of Sringeri, one of the monasteries founded by Shankaracharya. But remember, the Purusha Suktam has got another aspect to it. It is frequently interpreted as a hymn praising Lord Narayana. So you find in many of the temples, when they perform some rituals, they chant this Purusha Suktam. And Ramanuja himself has written a commentary on this. Mangalacharya has written a commentary on this. Sayanacharya has written. Nimbarka has written a commentary on this. So you find there are commentaries in Ramanuja tradition, Nimbarka's tradition, and also, of course, Sayanacharya tradition. I have mostly relied upon Sayanacharya, but even Bhattabhaskara also is very Advaitic when he interprets this particular, the last mantra, Vedahamedam Purusham Mahandam, we described just now. So it has got a strong Advaitic orientation, because any idea that implies the oneness of existence is linked to Advaita. Oneness of existence, unity and oneness of existence and creation is linked to Advaita. For example, you know, Sayanacharya himself writes, so he says, finally, and you know, his own word is, Yadhokta Virat Purusha Dhyanam Atra Pradivadidi Tatra Mantra Drashta Sukiyam Dhyananubhavam Prakadayidi. So, and Sayanacharya writes, you know, the Rishi of this sukta, the Narayana Rishi, he is explaining his own spiritual experience that he attained as a result of meditating on the meaning of this sukta. And then another scholar, Bhattabhaskara, is also more or less very Advaitic in his interpretation. Tam vidvan amrudo bhavadi anya pantha vidyate ayanaya amrudatva praptaye. Remember, amrudatvam or deathlessness can be also called nirvana in the Buddhist sense, or the realization of the saguna sagara savishesha, you know, the attribute, the cosmic creator, God, Vasudeva, Narayana, full of attributes and different manifestations, the Sri Vaishnava tradition, perfectly okay, nothing wrong in it. So, to be very frank with you, Purusha Suktam is more frequently used by Sri Vaishnava, qualified and non-dualists, called Ramanuja's tradition. We used for rituals in temples where some aspects of Vishnu or Lord Krishna is a deity. But it is a very important statement when we get the Samhita, because right now we will soon be concluding the Advaitic part of the fundamental text of Indian philosophy, foundational text of Indian philosophy. So this is very important. Of course, there is another important document in the Rigveda Samhita, is called Nasadiya Suktam. Na sadasid, no sadasid, na asad asid, no sadasid. In the beginning, there was neither non-existence nor existence. That's how it begins. Called creation hymn. In fact, Swami Vivekananda himself has translated that into English because of his Vedantic significance. So there are just a few important statements from the Rigveda Samhita, then we'll come to other books. Okay? Yeah.
Thank you, Swami. What was that last hymn that you said Vivekananda himself translated? What was that called?
Nasadiya Suktam. It's creation hymn.
Nasadiya Suktam.
Yeah, Nasadiya Suktam, creation hymn. Srishti
Okay.
Suktam sometimes called. It is Nasadasit, no Sadasit. Mean in the beginning there was neither non-existence nor existence, something which cannot be called existence or non-existence, something which is indescribable. And there are many statements in that sutta. Sado bindum asadi niravindan kriti pradesha kavayo manisha. The ancient sages went in search of the fundamental cause of the universe. Finally, they realized it within their own hearts, in their own purified hearts. So statements you find in the Nasadiya Suktam. So this is a very important suktam from the Rigveda Samhita. There are many, even Rigveda Devi Suktam and many suktas you find lost Advaitic orientation, but I am not going to those texts. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Swami.
Thank you.
Maharaj, the 14 types of yetnas that are associated with different developmental periods in people's lives.
Yeah.
How well do the underlying meanings and purification of the heart, how well is that promulgated to young people in particular as they go through those rituals?
I tell you, well, now in these rituals, there are many things associated with rituals. For example, what you offer in the fire, the one who offers, and also the act of offering, the rituals, 17 rituals, 17 priests will gather for many of the yagas, sometimes even more. Now, and the clarified butter that is offered. All these are linked to the cosmic evolution. For example, you just imagine. For example, seasons. Seasons are sometimes, spring season is compared to clarified butter. Summer season is Grishma, Idma, Sharat, Havi. Say Grishma, Idma. Even the dry woods that are necessary for this ritual compared to summer season. Summer season you find order. And again, sometimes you find years, months, days and nights, sunset and sunrise. All these are finding somehow linked to this cosmic yajna. Because when you perform a yajna, perform a Vedic ritual, you have to think of all these. You need clarified butter, you want purodasha, you means this cooked rice cake, you need dry woods, you need many of these things you require. So, how do you link this to the cosmic yajna, cosmic ritual, described as the creation of the empirical world? So what happens, seasons, different seasons, years and months and sunset and sunrise, the sun and moon, the oceans, all of them take part as different ingredients for the entire cosmic ritual. Now, of course, in today's conditions, there are still many of these yajnas are still being performed in different parts of India. Your question is how young people take to it, you mean?
No, let me explain. I know that in certain traditions, the weight, the meaning, the cosmic breadth of the ritual experience is carefully explained to the young participants.
Oh, yeah.
But not always is that very carefully instructed.
No, that's true. That is true. Actually, very few of the people who perform rituals and chant these mantras do actually know the meaning of what they are chanting. Many of them know, many of them may not know. So if you go to India, you can't say that every priest in every temple knows the meaning, the spiritual significance, symbolism of the mantras they are chanting. I don't think so. Many of them may know, but very few of them actually. So,
but could you say, Maharaj, that that there's something inherent in the magnitude of it, the glorious elements of it that people perhaps pick up on, even if they're not, even if it's not carefully explained?
that is true. That is true. In fact, that is a test of the value of a ritual. You can find many of the ancient religious traditions survive because they associate some kind of holiness and sanctity with the performance of some rituals, the meaning of which they may not always know. But still they find when they do perform those rituals, they feel they are doing something sublime, something purifying. And the effect of purification they feel in their hearts. If a ritual is meaningful, only if every participant knows the meaning of the mantras is reciting, the ritual is not very great. On the other hand, even when you perform a ritual with a total application reverence, and you get something out of it, that's a real mystical significance of a ritual. That is true also when you read a great poem, when you write a great book, when you enjoy a great painting. You need not be a great expert on the science of or grammar of music, but still you get something out of listening to it. Then it is really great music. So something that becomes transcendental, it can connect with the human soul, even when the person doesn't really understand the meaning of it. So that's a real significance, a profoundness of it. People sometimes, they're very silly people, tell you, what's the use of chanting all day if you don't know the meaning of it? It's a very stupid question, because we do many things, the meaning of it we don't know, and we are benefited by that, really speaking, So, of course, there are many statements. I quoted many statements, many quotations I quoted from different Vedic scholars like Katyayana and some of the commentators, Bhattavaskara, Skanda Swami and others I quoted earlier, clearly state that you should know the meaning of the Veda mantras. If you don't understand the meaning of the Veda mantras, still you learn just by rote memorization. You are like a pillar that is holding a building. But that is only, those statements are made only to encourage students to study the meaning. But that's an important thing. Elsewhere, the same commentators make a statement. They emphasize the importance of learning the meanings of the mantra just to encourage people to study the meaning of it. But if a ritual is beneficial only if you know the symbolic meaning of every ritual, otherwise it is totally useless. The ritual has got no spiritual sanctity or sacredness. This is an important thing to remember. The sanctity of a ritual is not entirely dependent upon the understanding, the meaning of the mantras that are chanted there. These are important things. Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj. It seems like if we're going to participate in the creation itself, that it would be worthwhile to know it. But even if we didn't know it, it's so glorious to participate anyway that it has its own momentum.
Yeah. If you heard of the Ninth Symphony, or even you can test for yourself. You listen to there are some extreme manifestations of violent music available elsewhere. You listen to that, and then you listen to Purusha Suktam. You don't know the meaning. Perhaps many people may not know the meaning of Sanskrit. They have not even heard of it. Still, when they listen to Purusha Suktam or something, you feel kind of inner purity, you find. I also feel when I listen to a great prayer, whether from Judaism or Christianity or Buddhism, I don't always understand it. Still, I can connect with the sanctity dimension of those holy words without understanding the meaning. But then alone it has got a spiritual significance. Spirituality doesn't depend upon the understanding the word meaning. It is not like a manual of a machine where you should know the meaning of every word to work that machine. But these sacred hymns have got a significance that goes far beyond the word meaning of it. That's interesting thing. When our mind is ready, you can connect with the spiritual dimension of these sacred mantras. Okay. In next class, we will conclude this particular topic. Thank you. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Pranamastu.